Yeah.
Okay, recording has begun, sir. So you can, Arun sir,
Yeah.
you can
Okay. So
start
we
with it.
start. So, friends, this is our maybe 47 sessions for Human Library, and I'm personally very thankful to Dr. Sahu that he lent us the book called his life. So I'm very sure we shall all be very, very benefited by listening to him. Regarding the introduction, whether it's a book or it's a man, it is no matter how beautifully the phrases are framed or eloquently spoken, they cannot do justice to the book or the man. So since we have here the man himself, so it's over to you, Dr. Sahu. You can start now.
Uh,
One more thing, Dr. Sahu, normally what we do, we suggest the participants to switch the mics and the video off so that our whole concentration is on the speaker, unless you want them on the screen.
I'm okay either ways.
Okay. So when you finish, when the question session starts, we all shall be back to you. So yes, go ahead, Dr. Sahu.
Arun,
It's all yours now.
Arunji, do you have any time limit on this, and how do I go about it? You just want me to speak about my experiences, right? So, thank you, Arun sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of such an august audience. The concept of sharing your experiences and learning through it was quite novel. As I was operating on Arun sir, he was telling me about this, and later he asked me whether I would like to share. Initially, I was a bit taken aback because at my age and with whatever I've done, I thought there's hardly much that I can really speak about. He was quite insistent. I said, fine, let us take this as an opportunity to see if we can, add something out there. So I'm Dr. Chinmay Sahu. I'm a vitreoretinal surgeon. I did my, I was born in Mumbai and I've grown up here. By training, I did my ophthalmology from Nair Hospital in Bombay, and then went on to do a super specialization in retina from Shankar Netralaya at Chennai, and subsequently also was working as a consultant at LV Prasad Eye Institute at Hyderabad. Now, to go back to my background, I'm born into a family of doctors. My father, Dr. Amulya Sahu, also is an eye surgeon, and my mother, Dr. Mrs. Sanjukta Sahu, is a family physician. And I can say that a lot of who I am and what I am doing at this point is primarily shaped through my experiences and the influences that they have had on me during my childhood. The earliest that I can think of, was when my dad used to take me on his scooter while he used to go from one clinic to the other. And even at a very young age, maybe when I was probably just around 10 years old, I remember my dad talking to me about what is life. And he was those days into Osho. And I remember as we, kind of progressed to having a small Maruti 800 car, even in the Maruti 800 car, he would have the cassettes being played. And it kind of set off that curiosity in me as to who am I? Why am I here? Why am I doing what I am doing? Somehow these questions, very fundamental questions, which never seem to bother other kids of my age, seem to always, play in my mind as a background record and a music. Having said that, I knew that, I had to study, and maybe that was the simple thing to follow, that I am going to a school, I have to do what is being told of me. But as I went through my initial years, my memory is of loving reading books, grappling with this question of who am I, and being exposed to spiritual thinkers like Osho, from Osho, Ramakrishna Paramhans, then moving on to various other influences which came in that direction, and thirdly, trying to establish, working towards becoming a better student and those things. that's pretty much what I would say an average childhood. The only thing different was probably compared to other kids, I was more of an introvert. I would spend more time reading books. And I remember like my vacation time would be all about picking up something to read about. Authors and few of the people that who made an earlier impact were I used to read a lot of Osho, as I told you. Authors like those days, Dad would expose me to various self-help books and things like that. I would also dabble in a bit of poetry. That was schooling. I schooled in Malad in a called St. Anne's High School, and I passed out. I did well in my academics in school, and I was, those days, getting into the 90s used to be a big thing in our. I got into a 90. I was second in school in academics. Went on to a college called Ruparel College, which is again where almost people in Mumbai, if they are among the top, they would land up going to Ruparel for further education. At Ruparel, that it was 2 years of college time, but it was all a blur because academic pressures were there, and I had made up my mind that since I already was born in a family of doctors, overall by nature, what mattered to me a lot was that I was some way I could be helpful to society, and you know, helping people was something which was intrinsic to my nature. The fact that I loved science and I was good at it, all of this kind of made it simple and clear that I probably need, the future lies in medicine for me. So 11th went primarily into, spending hours reading and trying to get. Again, in 12th standard, I did well. I was 12th in the merit list in Mumbai. And I got into MBBS in Mumbai. Even in those days, I had a little bit of a kind of inkling that maybe I should be going abroad. So I remember like giving SAT exam and kind of hello, hello, am I audible? Yeah. So I remember
Yes, you are.
giving
You are.
yeah. So I remember giving my SAT exams in those days, and the idea was that if I don't make it in Mumbai, then maybe I can go abroad to US. Luckily, I did make it in Mumbai, and I got into Nair. And as I went through medical college, uh, I was, I got a little more involved with extracurriculars. So I was a lot into. So as a child, also I had learned tabla, and I was, into playing, classical tabla for many years. So in college, it transferred into, things like dancing. We had a dancing troupe, and we would go around participating in various intercollegiate festivals and won quite a bit of prizes along with my friends in those days. So medical college was quite exciting. In Bombay, uh, being in Nair Hospital, it was more of a mix of academics and a lot of fun. Made good friends in those days, and apart from the music and dance, a lot. I was also involved in literary. I was the editor of the college magazine, and dabbled in a bit of poetry in those days. Was pretty good at it, but more like a pastime rather than any kind of serious game. So during MBBS, I did quite well in my academics. Again, was used to be among the toppers in college. So things were going on quite well. Uh, then the next step was, to once MBBS was over, the idea was to like, decide what is to be done next. Preparing for entrance exams, I decided that I will not go the same path, like, just because my dad is an eye surgeon, I will take up ophthalmology. This is what normally would, what most people would say I would should happen. But I kept an open slate. I gave my entrance exams. I, in fact, cleared All India Institute aims. I was 102 rank all over India, but the seat got last seat went at 85 rank, but couldn't. I didn't get the All India Institute seat, but I got the MS Ophthalmology in Mumbai, the next exam. And we had a gap, like in those years, there was the exam was held, and then there was a 6 month gap where I had an opportunity to take a call as to what I would want to do. So before I got into ophthalmology, I decided let me explore it. Let me take a. I joined Hinduja Hospital in Mumbai. Then I realized slowly that yes, ophthalmology is something that I am really enjoying. Now I feel that I'm privileged to have become an eye doctor because amongst all the fields of medicine, ophthalmology offers a beautiful balance between surgical as well as medical. You have parts of ophthalmology like neuro-ophthalmology where you would need to be able to dissect through the symptoms, study the signs, and try. You'll get to know that there is a problem somewhere in the body out here. So it was a nice mix of medical part as well as surgically. It's extremely skillful because you're operating on an eye which is by itself a very small delicate organ, and you know it needs a little bit of let's say, apart from being calm and cool, your skill sets, your hands have to be quite stable, steady, so as to operate on the human eye. And so it became quite obvious that with my dad's background, the fact that I was loving what I was doing, I had to take up ophthalmology. I did at that point, take up in Mumbai, though I had a option of taking up a DNB seat in Shankar Netralaya, but I got a bit carried away with the fact that I was getting an MS seat, which was quite prestigious in those days. Uh, MS ophthalmology in Mumbai in my hospital, we call it surgical exposure was good. So we had a lot of hands-on training in terms of operating on the eye, but in terms of exposure to the various facets of ophthalmology, it wasn't that great. And we were definitely lacking behind compared to some of the premier institutes like Shankar Netralaya, LV Prasad, or Arvind Eye Hospital. So I went through ophthalmology with the idea that okay, I am becoming a doctor. I was pretty decent ophthalmologist, but there's a lot more to be done out there. So was getting when the course was getting over, there was this option of whether I should directly start practicing ophthalmology or should I train further. Now, somewhere within me, I had this thinking, no, if I go out, I wanted to be the best at what I do, and I didn't want any kind of feeling that I had not invested enough time and energy in learning my skills or in acquiring knowledge. Though I was 28, I was about to get married, and there were going to be the typical pressures of family life and the pressure to earn and those things. But I decided no, I need to invest a little more time in training further. At that point of time, again, I had this feeling that I need to expose myself to some institute abroad. So I had given USMLE. I had cleared my step one, step two. Then I went to the US, gave my clinical exams there, and I passed my USMLE. I spent almost 6 to 8 months in US, and that was a remarkable time in my life because typically in India when you become a doctor and if you're coming from a doctor family, it's all about getting and starting. Like the parents would typically say that get going, don't waste time. Whereas I had seen my father and I'd seen the way he was going around, and I knew that once I got into practice, going to be hardly any time to do anything different. And I wanted to do a bit of backpacking. I wanted to explore life beyond what I was doing at that point. Um, Also because how do you convince your parents that you want to take a 6 months off from what you're doing and just go around doing nothing? So I found a suitable alternative in which I officially applied to various universities in US. And in US, what happens is they give you interview dates at different points of time. Each university has their own selection time. So luckily for me, it got spread out over a period of 3 to 4 months. Officially, I had that excuse to give to my parents that I have a clinical exam to give in the US. And I'm interviewing with various universities. Unofficially, it was this deep desire in me to see whether, I want to settle abroad in US or I want to get back to India. Am I just doing things because, I'm born into a medical family, or is there something I can do different? So I was a little bit of at a crossroads. So I went to US and I actually got an observership at a hospital called Jocelyn Diabetes, which is part of Beth Israel Hospital, which is again a part of the Harvard medical system. Now, at Jocelyn Diabetes, Dr. Lloyd Ilo in those days was the chair for a group called drcr.net. Most of the trials which happen, which govern the various treatment protocols for retina, uh, especially for diabetic related problems affecting the eye, come through research work from a collaboration of US universities. And this group is called the drcr.net group. And Dr. Lloyd Ilo was the first chair of this group. And I got to work directly under him in, Boston. It was like to get to that point was a dream. And when I got there, I was a little taken aback because here I am in US, in Boston, in Harvard, and in that particular center, they was trying, seeing around about 20 patients in a day. Whereas in India, in any routine OPD, you would land up seeing 100, 150 odd patients in a municipal hospital. So 20, 25 patients, then I realized this, you know, there's a lot more pressure on publication and coming out with, you know, papers and a lot of it was just geared towards that, which wasn't really exciting for me. Um, I was more keen on mastering the surgical skills I was more keen in dealing with patients because that was somewhere where I used to feel satisfied. So I think I had one of those life-changing conversations when I was there at this hospital with a doctor of Indian origin who was from US itself. And she told me a very simple thing. In those days, doctors from US were going to Arvind, my hospital in South, for surgical training. So she told me that here, if you're here to so you enjoy the US way of living and you want to just be out here, then well and good, please, you know, continue with your education out here. If you're really looking to be a good doctor, I mean, why would you leave India and come to US? And that kind of stuck with me. Though I interviewed, I got a direct lectureship in University of California, Irvine. You know, that was a rare opportunity where, without having done my master's in US, I was getting a direct license to practice whatever as an ophthalmologist. But this particular thought that am I just going to US because I'm enamored with the way of US, the US life, or whether I'm really going to enjoy out there. Meanwhile, having spent 4 to 6 months backpacking through various cities, staying with friends, I slowly started realizing that oh, maybe it might give a little more quality of life. But the way we are bonded in India, the way our family systems work, the way we are connected, I was missing it all out there. It's quite possible that I didn't have an immediate family out there, and maybe I was just with friends and I was missing it. But it did play a role. I this longing of being with your family and with your near and dear ones. This the desire to be really a good surgically, and also the fact that I was somewhere or the other, kind of still not very keen to repeat my entire MS out there in US. I'd already done my MS in Mumbai, and that's quite a uh, strenuous course by itself. So at that point, I decided, no, I need to get back to India. So I applied for further training, and I was lucky, and I got into Shankar Nitrale, south of India. I think from this point on in life, I think those were some of the most influential years. When I got to Shankar Nitrale, I saw a hospital which was driven by a mission, and Dr. Badrinath was the pioneer of retinal work in India. He in 1964 had gone to Massachusetts, and in those years he had trained in Retina, and he was among the first people to introduce the Retina and surgeries related to Retina in India. So he's considered the father of Retina in India. And just walking in the same campus, happening to encounter, meet him, just meet people who are so passionate, so driven to make an impact on human life, started having an impact on me as a human being. Already, I was having an extreme, I was extensively into spiritual practices from childhood. As I said, that Osho, so dynamic meditation was something I used to practice as a child, and slowly, as I grew older, Deepak Chopra, at some point of time, reading his books and started influencing me. Eventually, it became Sadhguru, or who started influencing me in terms of the spiritual thoughts. But what I realized is, whatever I do, like whether eventually helping another human being, trying to make some kind of impact on the life of another person, was something which was giving me that happiness or was making me feel satisfied as a human being. And studying in Shankar Netralaya, being surrounded by people with a similar mindset, just added fuel to that fire. Now, in Shankar Netralaya, uh, I had the opportunity of working with some of the most brilliant minds in ophthalmology. Luckily, we get to work one month with one consultant there, and it exposes you to different thought processes and what they are thinking. So I, at this point of time, had also got married. It was a very exciting phase. Uh, my wife, Dr. Poonam, is actually a dentist, and I must say that even having my, how we met, how we got married, also has had a big impact on who I am as a person. So Poonam happens to be my brother is a dentist, and they were both studying together in dental college. And we just chanced upon. Uh, she happened to be visiting Mumbai when I was doing my MS, and we just happened to meet when she was about to go back to Belgaum, where my brother and she were studying. In that brief meeting, um, so happened that we were caught in the car. My brother got a phone call. She was waiting for the bus, and there was like awkward half an hour during which we got started talking, and we realized that even she was into Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. I mean, into the Hare Krishna sect at that point of time, and I was also into some kind of spiritual practice. We both kind of got attracted in those sense. We were realizing that hardly are we surrounded by people who have a spiritual mindset, and it was difficult to connect to most other people. Here were two people, and we started talking to each other on phone. And let's say, to cut a long story short, one fine day when my parents were thinking that it's high time I get married, I thought ki rather than just go and meet people randomly, I picked up the phone, called her, and I said that, hey, my parents are looking out for a girl, and maybe I feel you'd be the right partner. She was taken aback, but she gave it a thought. She spoke to her parents, and then things worked out. So Poonam and I, had got married after I got back from US, and then we moved on to Shankar Netralaya. So basically, when I went to Shankar Netralaya, I was on a small stipend of 12,000, and she was not with. She had no work. So we got to also live, face hardships for the first time. Take a small place on rent, try to make with what we were earning. So this kind of austere living, as well as the environment in which I was growing as a doctor, started shaping me more and more, and started giving me a little better picture of what I want to do further. As I finished during that particular period in Shankar Nitrale, I also happened to pen a book. So I have a textbook written, which quite a few ophthalmologists read when they go for their MS ophthalmology exams. So during that course, there was a lot of academic activity going on, a lot of paper publications, a lot of academics was in full flow. We both were married, so we were exploring places, visiting, getting to know each other. There was a lot of excitement of the married life. We made a lot of friends, so staying alone for the first time, it was quite a bit of an experience. As I was finishing Retina at Shankar Netralaya, um, the thought was, I wanted to really distinguish myself in a way which, heart stands out when I get back. Already by then, I had started, giving various exams, and so I was among those who had the highest number of degrees in ophthalmology at that point of time. I'd already written a book, and then the next thing was to get a consultancy in LV Prasad at Hyderabad, because these two were considered the topmost premier institutes, and having both of them on the CV was a definite standout. Getting into LV Prasad is again not an easy process. They have a very rigorous interview process in which it starts with personal interviews and then it ends with having to kind of give a 1 hour lecture on a paper that you have published, and where you are kind of in an audience which is extremely knowledgeable. You're publicly questioned, and eventually then they take a call whether you are a right fit for the organization. So a 3 day interview process, and I got through to LV Prasad. Dr. G.N. Rao is another person who has had a great impact. Dr. G.N. Rao, the founder of LV Prasad Eye Institute, also is very famous for what is called the pyramidal approach in ophthalmology, where he went about setting up the Hyderabad Institute so that he has other. So Hyderabad is considered the center of excellence, and from there on, he has centers at Vijayawada and Vizag and all, which are again tertiary centers. He has managed to go to the village level in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So primary, secondary, tertiary, the level at which LV Prasad is able to serve society is just unimaginable. And seeing a person who has been able to use his life in such an amazing way was a great motivation. Dr. G.N. Rao also has this amazing presence. So when you are in his presence, you get goosebumps, because here is a man who's been able to do so much with his life. And LV Prasad, I again realized they had this beautiful art system where there was one, so they had patients coming, and you had these folders. So, you had a green folder, was completely free care, a blue folder, which is a normal economic, and then they would have a yellow and a brown folder where you are charged double or 4 times of what is normally charged. And those people were said that whatever you are paying is going to be used and to help people who cannot afford. And this somehow made an amazing, it really was beautiful, because many places in many hospitals, they are driven a lot by corporate they start functioning more like corporate entities where balance sheets start playing a role, profitability matters, what is your growth rate, what is your return on investment, various such terms start playing a role. Whereas when you get into any medical field, I think most of us are primarily human beings who are wanting to make a difference to another human life. And here is one hospital which told me, doctor, if you feel a patient deserves free treatment, make it free. Empowering a doctor. My first salary in LV Prasad was 35,000 rupees, and this was in 2010. So 35,000 was my starting salary. I was working from 7 in the morning to 11:30 in the night with hardly a 5-minute break in the day. I had a son by then, he was just born, but the level of satisfaction that I felt was unimaginable, because people were being people were coming from villages in those in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, who could have never afforded this kind of care, and they were getting complete free, true free care in the sense. I know of a lot of organizations which project that we are doing a lot of free work, and they kind of use that to get various subsidies or they get grants from various. Even LV Prasad does that, but here they honestly were also doing that kind of work. And that was something I saw, somewhere I need to do something similar where I can make a difference. I worked in LV Prasad for a year and a half as a consultant, blossomed surgically because the amount of work that I was doing was unimaginable. Uh, I must credit LV Prasad for giving me this opportunity to hone my surgical skills and to become as efficient and as good at what I do right now. Uh, at this point of time, slowly and steadily, I was getting that feeling that my parents were looking out for me. And the other thought that I had in mind was that eventually, your parents raise you, your parents go through all the hardships that they do selflessly, and they never expect anything in return. But round about that time, my dad fell. He had probably fell sick. He had a little bit of a episode, and it got me thinking that what do I want to do further? Do I really want to continue here in LV Prasad for and still do what what I'm doing, or can I get back to Mumbai and then make a difference out there as well? So the desire to be with my parents, um, and probably the thought that Mumbai, I felt Mumbai lacked. So Mumbai is like a city which has probably maximum number of industrialists. In fact, one of the thoughts which was driving me was the maximum donation that was coming to Shankar Netralaya, LV Prasad was all from Mumbai. So if you go to Shankar Netralaya, the Bajaj family has donated what they now call as the Kamal Narayan Bajaj Institute of the fundamental research, where they do a lot of research work in eye-related things. And so they have the Tatas have donated in a huge way to Shankar Netralaya. If you go to LV Prasad, some of the biggest donors come from Mumbai. But Mumbai itself was lacking institute of any significance. And the kind of quality of eye care in the city of Mumbai, I would say, was quite poor and was actually being driven by people who were training from these institutes and coming back and serving in small pockets. But there was no institute, or there is still no institute of repute doing the same kind of work. So the other thought was, can I go back to in Bombay and do something? So I got back to Mumbai in 2010, and somewhere that when I started practicing, I realized that the urban poor is probably among the most poor because they are the most neglected and in a way the most probably because having lived in Mumbai, people think they are all doing well. So there's not no significant amount of support coming. The healthcare system in Mumbai, if you go to a BMC hospital, they are there, they offer a decent level of care, but are they up to the mark, or are they, would it be the same? Would any of us go to a municipal hospital and take treatment for any of our near ones? No. So I got to Mumbai. Uh, though my father was an eye specialist, he was practicing in a very small clinic, which was around 400, 450 carpet area. And starting my own setup required a lot of investment and a lot of capital. I can say that I was blessed because my father had invested a lot of time, a lot of so his entire goodwill and his blessing was there with me. Though I had to take loans at that point of time and set up, but I bought the place, and we built a decent, institute. I must say that at my clinic, I've invested in the topmost. Though I didn't have any money at that point, there were few things that was very clear. I didn't want to take any money from my parents because I wanted to be on my own two legs, and I wanted to invest in the best in technology and give the best to my patients. As I was navigating that particular phase where I had come from LV Prasad where my first salary was 35 and I got promoted, and then I was having a salary of 75. Now you're at almost at 32 now, and you have a son, you have a family to look out for, and you have nothing. There is no money at all. There is no saving. There is absolutely no concept of how to go about doing those things. So quite a bit of a challenge. The initial years, everything was alone, and I must say that there was a bit of pressure, but there was also that confidence that I've invested time and energy in becoming good at what I do. So it was an exciting phase of life where we were building a practice. Even in those days, though I didn't have any kind of saving, I didn't have any kind of earning, I had this deep desire to do something for society. And I happened to talk to people whenever I used to meet people. I was, share with them this idea that Bombay needs a lot more for the urban poor. And I had become a Rotarian. I was talking to my friends. Maybe they say when you honestly want to do something, and if your intent is without any kind of, let's say, greed, or if your intent is honest, the universe conspires to make things happen. So, luckily, I was blessed. I applied to Rotary for a grant, and the entire idea was that in ophthalmology, most of the energy goes into treating cataract and getting people cataract free. But diabetes and diabetes related blindness, where the retina gets affected, uh, lazy eye in children, where children are develop lazy eye because they are not detected with the numbers at the right age, and glaucoma, where the nerve becomes weak and considered a silent killer of the eye. These are very neglected things, the charitable sector. So I went to Rotary saying that we have to come up with a program, which is like we need an outreach program where we can go out to people. Because what I started realizing in my practice was that there is a limit to people are apprehensive going to a doctor. When you decide to, people most of the time will try to push things to a point where it breaks. And this fear that if I go to a doctor, I'll be, the doctor will say I've got some problem, and that will lead to a lot of expenses. So most of the poor families fear that. And I said that there's one way of breaking that is to actually reach out to them in their own setups. So as I was setting up my primary practice as a doctor, having seen how Shankar Netralaya works, and having seen how LV Prasad had set up its system, I went about trying to develop a similar kind of thing where we now started working on developing primary health centers in the urban slums. So at this point of time, we are having close to 20 odd centers where we have, we do a lot of work with the municipal schools in and around the slums. And on an annual basis, my outreach program, where we have two vehicles which are fully equipped with all the machines for an eye checkup, as well as a fundus camera, as well as machine for checking the eye number. So these vehicles go to various schools, and we on an average do between 20 to 25,000 children ka free screening, where we give free glasses. Any child diagnosed with any eye disease is then taken up and given free treatment. So this has got us a lot of goodwill. And these schools started telling doctor, why don't you, set up a center where, the families of these kids can also benefit. So that led to the formation of a lot of primary healthcare centers where, I have optometrists who visit these places and they screen patients, and those who need further treatment are then sent to the main center. Meanwhile, we have this, you know, setups which are primary health centers in these small schools and various places. And we have the vehicle which goes around doing camps and screens patients for various preventable eye disease related conditions. So, as I have grown in life and as I have veered from, I've tried to synthesize my spiritual background and my quest to know who I am, why I am here. Um, I've tried to mix the various margas of self-realization, right from Bhakti Marg to Karma Marga. And I have realized that, you know, work in itself is a yoga, work in itself is a meditation, work in itself is a tool to self-realization. And if I honestly immerse myself and in what I do, is probably the best way to know who I am, why am I here, and what am I doing. So currently, I am in that stage where I mix my day with start my day with you know what we call as the Shambhavi Kriya, which we have learned as part of the Isha, being part of Isha. Then mix it up with a yoga and exercise. Sometimes we go to the gym. Sometimes I go and play TT. Then I start my day. Our hospital, we have set up what we call as our core values, which is ethics, empathy, excellence, and economic. Now, these I think define who I am. When I set up the place, I set up a core purpose for myself. And I said, my core purpose is to make a meaningful difference to the lives of people directly or indirectly through my action, words, and deeds. So, whatever I do, whatever way I can make a meaningful impact, whether directly or indirectly, is what I would like to do with my life. So, this is what we are doing. One thing I have seen in medical care, is that over a period of time, the fact that doctors go through such a rigorous training process and they have hardly any income to show for. And when they get into practice, earning money becomes a big driving motivating factor for them. And because you're dealing with sickness and you're dealing with disease, you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of doctors start becoming, they lose empathy over a period of time. It becomes very mechanical. And this is one thing which I said I will not let it happen to myself. When I was going through my learning process, is one of those this beautiful movie of Robbie Williams, uh, which in which he basically goes about trying to treat people more like human beings rather than a disease. And that left also a big impact on who I am. And I keep telling myself that empathy is something that I cannot, everyone who comes to me comes with some kind of pain and is in some kind of, however they are and whoever they are, it doesn't really matter. But being kind to that person, trying to be a little empathetic, saying a little few kind words is all that I can do. And maybe that can bring about some relief in that person's life. And that makes a big difference to me. So I make it a point, however bad the prognosis is, however tough the situation is, I never will speak negatively to a patient. I will always be optimistic. Try to, give them that ray of hope that things will be better. And I always go in with a deep prayer to the universe that for whatever reason you have chosen me to, be this vessel through which I can, know, this person, I can do something. So let your energy or let the universal energy work out here and do something to help that human being. So that has been my driving force. As I see the way the medical field unfolds, it's not easy for us because a lot of, uh, let's say, corporatization of practice which is happening. Unfortunately, when you run a clinic like the way I do, there's a lot of investment in technology, and technology keeps getting, is being changed, is being pushed. Many a times, technology is actually useful and can do a lot of good, but a lot of time is, I think, driven through companies. And I keep trying to get the right balance out there, and so that because if you fall prey to everything that is coming your way, may not make a meaningful impact to the quality of care that you're delivering to your patient. But because you've spent so much money in procuring that particular thing, all you're doing is trying to make things happen. And as a result of which, a lot of times you may land up doing things which are not ethical or which are maybe in some given different circumstances would not have been done. So I'm at that crossroads where, I'm trying to ensure that and keeping pace with whatever advancements are happening in technology. At the same time, trying to do what I can do in terms of quality of care to my patients and help whoever comes my way. Going forward, I hope that I'll be able to do this more, build a team, try and make a little more impact in this particular area. Also, as I'm growing older, uh, kind of yoga, meditation, a little bit of a introspective thing seems to have make a little more difference to my life. So this is how it is till now, and let's say I really don't know what more. I would like to end now by saying thank you for our patient hearing, and I would be more than happy to probably if anyone is interested to talk about anything, then I'll be more than happy to discuss that.
Amazing story, Chinmay. Allow me to call you Chinmay.
I don't know, sir.
Uh,
I'm still, I think the longest talk I must have given about myself, and I feel quite embarrassed because I've always tried to play. I feel the less you talk about yourself, the better. Your actions should speak more than your words. And having I feel blessed. When you came to my clinic that day, I listening to the way you are going around somewhere. I felt I am. I mean, I'm doing things, but I'm not as selfless. I'm still in the city of Mumbai. I still enjoy the luxury of staying in a nice house. I enjoy a good quality of life. But to go out there in the village, serve society in that kind of way, I mean, maybe someday I hope and pray that, you know, I will be able to. Right now, I'm doing it in the city. Hopefully, my father will, if he gets to speak, he comes from a small village called Gopinath in Odisha. It's his dream to, go back and do there something for his village. And hopefully, I'll be, can be a, participate somewhere in that. But one of the reasons I said yes to talk was because it was you who was there, and your story was so inspiring that I said, how can I not? If you have a group of such people with you, then I have so much more to learn and so much more to experience. And as I said, it's only when you meet people like Dr. Badrinath, Dr. Gulapalli Rao, they have shaped my lives, and I keep looking out for those kind of lampposts who can lit up Sadhguru, all those people. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak today and be a part of this lovely group.
Chinmay, the pleasure was entirely ours, and it's not just a formal statement I am making. At this point of time, I have nothing more to add. And obviously, I would like people who have to ask him something or share something, please raise your hands. Shaha, Ashutosh has raised the hand. So please go ahead, Ashutosh. Unmute
Yes.
yourself and go ahead.
Wonderful, Dr. Chinmay. It was really a pleasure listening to you, your life journey. And though
Right,
I
sir.
know that you are younger to most of us, but you had an incredible journey and many lessons to be learned.
Thank you.
It's a true value to the Human Library series that we have.
Thank you. I mean, I can just say one thing is um, that journey to know who you are is a very lonely journey, and most times you find yourself quite so when I grew up as a child, I could never relate to anyone around me. They would actually make fun of me because if I would start talking about Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad, or if I would talk about Osho, it was like this guy is nuts. And I realized quite early in life that this is going to be a lonely path, and to marry this and navigate life, you know. Yeah. So I have chosen karma yoga as a part of. I find it nice, and it's a blessing to know people. I'm sure most people out here amongst you also would have had that kind of a journey. But
Yeah.
I think that is what I feel. I try to do in my life. I think
Okay.
hopefully, let's see.
Yeah. So, Dr. Sahu, I had something to relate with whatever you spoke about your
Right.
professional journey, and
Mm-hmm.
I have been associated. No, definitely, I'm not a doctor, but I had the circumstances were such that I got associated with this kind of treatment in my family,
Uh-huh.
retinopathy, diabetic retinopathy treatment. So I
Right.
have one question to ask you. Is that
Right.
primarily about the anti-VEGF injections, which you
Right, sir.
people use, and those are very
Yeah.
expensive. Those injections are
Right.
very expensive. How do you manage
Correct.
it for the underprivileged people, because it requires lot of funding? I mean, these kind of injections.
Uh, so what has happened is, see, India is one of those senses, an amazing place. Now, when the first anti-VEGF injection came into the market, that was called Lucentis. It was by Novartis, and it was prohibitively expensive, literally to the tune of 75,000 per injection and monthly injections which were being required. Now, what Indian doctors do is Indian doctors improvise, and we have this molecule called Avastin, which is bevacizumab, and it was being used for colorectal cancer. So doctors saw that the molecular structure is primarily the same. So it comes Roche was the manufacturer, and you just have to give 0.05 ml in the eye. So this particular injection can cost somewhere in the range of 25 to 30,000 when you procure it. And from one particular vial, you can end up giving almost 15, 20 injections. So
Okay.
India has become the pioneer in this. In fact, the doctors started giving this injection at, so we give it at 5,000, 6,000 if required. And in my practice, what I do is I have a set number of patients where we don't charge. Like
Okay.
it's like a Robin Hood principle. I make a certain amount of money, but if I feel a patient is genuinely poor and he cannot afford, we don't charge. It's just subsidized at my end. It works out because whatever way we have certain margins when you do it. So it kind of helps us to do it for this patient. So you have these biosimilar molecules which are coming up in India. You
Mhm.
have biosimilars being produced by the Indian companies which are making it cheaper. Now we have Avastin, we have Zaltrap, which give equally good results. That is how they work. And when you go to a doctor, what happens is uh, most of the time the doctor will not talk about a biosimilar first. He will talk about the original molecule, and that will be very much more expensive. But you can always talk to your doctor, ki, what about these drugs? I'm sure that once you do that. Now the second thing is in diabetic retinopathy, what I do is clinical trials abroad are designed towards taking patients, making patients take injections. So I feel most of the medicine that is coming through now is significantly pharma driven and is driven by commercial interests. I never follow. So we have set protocols. As I told you, I was part of the DRCI.net group. I was part of those landmark studies which came out, and I know how those studies came. There's a significant pressure to publish data in a certain way, and you can skin the cat in many ways and show that this study is significant and this drug is required. Now, what we do in India, or I do, is call as treat and extend and treat as and when required. And second thing is I merge a lot of naturopathy. When a patient comes to me, I will never
Okay.
start him on injections. So I believe a lot in holistic healing. I believe a lot in the power of Ayurveda, the power of homeopathy and other allied branches. So I will spend significant amount of time discussing diet, discussing yoga, meditation. This is my initial talk with all my patients who come with diabetic retinopathy. And once I'm done with that, and I tell them that this medicine will be required, but until and unless you bring about the other changes, it will not work. So that also helps in reducing. So in my practice, I find that I need to give less one because people see when you talk with conviction to your patient and you talk with passion, it makes an impact. When they realize that the doctor is motivated and the doctor is really spending time to make them understand certain principles, they really get motivated to bring about that change in their life. They really do those modifications and it has a huge impact in their healing. That way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Jha has raised the hand, and anybody else who has the question can raise the hand. Dr. Jha, just 1 minute. Ashutosh, I think I have some inclination. I mean, I have some feeling why you have asked the question. So maybe if you have a counter question or maybe follow-up question, definitely I can get you connected to Dr. Sahu. Ashutosh.
Yes, I think I'll connect with him one because I'm not a professional in this field, but I had lot of interaction with the ophthalmologist, and what Dr. Sahu mentioned just now is really something worth appreciating, because uh, I was associated in a different way. I helped the doctor write a paper on this kind of treatment. I mean, in a very small way. I provided with the
Okay.
data and other things which were there with on my family member. So I did that. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, the emphasis was more on, and the more powerful the injection. I'm forgetting the name, Dr. Sahu, and it was very expensive. The other
So
injection.
is it Paginex, or is it Idea, or is it Vabismo? These are the new expensive ones.
Okay. I'll maybe in the chat I'll put it so you can carry on with
Sure,
other people in the call, and
sure,
I'll
sure,
put it in the
sure,
chat after I check it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
sure.
Dr. Jha, please unmute yourself and go ahead, sir.
No questions. Just wanted to say thanks to Dr. Chinmay and a few
Thank you
comments.
so much, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, uh, you are lucky and blessed in many ways that you are doing what you wanted to do. We
Right, sir.
started our learning together sessions with the call. So you must have got a call from whosoever about what your goals in life would be, and 2 or 3 points that you emphasized more than once: empathy, sympathy towards the patients and towards all beings. Why not all beings? Why human beings only? That should be the cornerstone of any doctor or any good human being. That you are doing is God's blessing to you. And personally, I have not joined any club, any group, any yoga sanstha, but some basic foundations in my life have been what you have been talking for last half an hour, so more than that, almost 45 minutes. One is, if you perform your job well, that is what Gita says, yoga karmas kausalam. If you do your job with finesse and skill, that is the yoga. That is the best form of yoga. If you are serving humanity, that is the best philosophy that you can have in Ramakrishna Mission. You mentioned, he always used to say in Bangla, translated as Nar Seva hi Narayan Seva. And then the old saying that we always quote Sanskrit slokas to make our listeners or audience feel that we are learned. But then this one has stuck with me right very early in my life. Paropkaraya punyaya papaya parpina. If you help somebody, that is the best punya karma that you can do. If you harm any creature, चींटी ही क्यों ना हो, उससे बड़ा पाप कुछ नहीं. That you have been practicing all these, that is the best achievement one can strive for as a doctor or as simple human being, he or she be in any field of life. You are blessed, and thank you very much for being part of one of our sessions. And
Thank you,
if you
sir.
have the time, be a regular in our platform. We can have many more things to talk
Sure, sir.
and continue the good work that you have been doing. That's all I have
Thank
to
you, sir,
say. Thank you,
for
Dr.
those
Chinmay.
kind words. Thank
It's
you, sir.
been a lovely evening,
Thank you, sir.
close to
Thank you.
my heart.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody has a question, they can raise the hands. When Dr. Chinmay was inspecting, or I do not know what is the technical word, he just asked me, what do you do? So maybe in a couple of lines, I told him what I have been doing. That is nothing. I do nothing. He says, interesting. What made you do that? So in one line, I said it was a calling. I could not have said any other word. Dr. Chinmay, our first session was on callings some of us have had, so that we are doing
Okay.
what we are doing. And
Wow.
your life is the embodiment of what we call calling.
No, sir. I mean,
One more thing I would like to share, since nobody has raised the hand. Sarita ma'am, I'll just come to you. I stay in one of the most posh areas of North Bombay, that is Warsaw. We have lots of good hospitals, very posh hospitals. I've shared that with Chinmay. And his hospital is in not a very uptown, and he explained that, Malad. I traveled around 10, 12 kilometers. When I found his hospital, I did some research about him, about the work that his clinic has been doing, his organization has been doing. So I said, this is the man I would like to put my eye. This is the man in whose hands I would like to put my eye. And Chinmay, you have much more than, you have come up to much more than I thought. Like your father said,
thank you.
we are our name, then what we do. And third stage in our life is presence. Fourth, of course, is enlightenment. Your presence today was heavenly, Chinmay.
Thank you, sir.
It was
Thank
heavenly.
you. Thank you for this kind words.
Dr. Sarita is from US. Dr. Sarita, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and go ahead before I come to Sharda Babu. Sarita, ma'am.
So, Dr. Sahu, it was like a pleasure to hear you. And in
Thank you.
young age, you sacrificed, I will say it was sacrifice. Left US, a place where every doctor at some point in life, they dream to come and get trained. And when it
Yeah.
came to make money, you left. So that was,
Yeah.
we tried so hard to do that, and the
Yeah.
lifestyle and the quality of life, it was very hard. And it was good that you left before your child was born.
Yeah. It would have been
Our
difficult.
children became our reason why we stayed in US, because they don't want
Yeah.
to go. So at some point, a little bit of regret I do have, and it is actually precipitated a little bit more after hearing you. My my reason to come to US was very unusual, unusual than you. And one
Mhm.
reason why there are two experiences which I want to share, because you just
Yeah.
triggered those thoughts. One was
Yeah.
when I was in medical school, like a final year, and suddenly a lady came to my house and asking her infant to be treated. I was doing pediatrics, so I saw that boy, he has what we call bronchiolitis, and he was almost like uh, barely breathing. It was like a very nightmare for me to see him. She has no place to go. Hospital was far from my home, so I literally asked her to bring the medication from nearby pharmacy and give injection to that little 9 months infant. Now, boy got better, and few days she came to my house, and from her that sari corner, she removed like a 20 rupees and offered me my fees. And I was so amazed, embarrassed, and painful. Like, I thought, if I do private practice, this is what I am going to do, take in money from poor to survive, because I was not rich, from middle class family. So what I am looking for after I became a doctor. The second incident was my husband went to join his first job, and he was asked to sign on something which was not there. So he said,
Oh.
I don't want to do this. And he left. That made us think about that either I forced to pay bribery or something at every part, every step in my life, or go somewhere else. That was the reason why we came to US. When I came here, I saw that this place is not better than India either, because everyone was looking for what kind of insurance patient have. Even during my internship, every doctor will look, okay, this, and that will change their attitude towards patient.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
so that was a nightmare. Second nightmare is like a from mountain to sky mein girna. And then I thought, what should I do? So then we both joined government hospital. So we
Okay.
compromised. We didn't go back to India, but we didn't do private practice either. We just
Okay.
joined government jobs so that nobody will ask us what insurance. We don't have to ask. We don't have to think about whether that person is paying or not paying. So we survived that way. But on and
Come on.
off, the calling part is still, I feel like I need to go and volunteer in India. And you
Yeah.
made my intense desire even more intense. So at some point I will go back, and
Come on.
my intention is to go to Rishikesh.
Wonderful.
There's a Himalayan Institute, Dr. Arun Roy has
Parag.
talked about.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have my intense desire, and you had actually intensified that to go and work in that as a volunteer, not necessarily a paid doctor at some point.
Come on.
So that was a
It's
great
pleasure.
talk. And in young age, you have achieved which many, despite the fact that you were on very good family, and there was, you don't have to struggle or anything, but you went through this, and it was great. Thank you
I
so
think it's a,
much.
thank you, ma'am. I think
So
it's
Dr. Chinmay have
our
already ignited one light. Dr. Chinmay have already ignited one light.
but I must tell you that
I know.
most of it is because of my parents, and I remember like when I was growing as a child, my father, he is from both my father and mother are from Odisha, and they did their training from SCB Medical College. And my father comes from a very poor family, and I remember stories being told like when he finished MBBS, he was first given a coat or a kind of a as a gift from his parents, ki like beta doctor ban gaya hai. And I remember like my mother telling me that the first day when he came, he was going on the road. He saw a poor person on the road shivering, and the first thing he did was remove his coat and just covered him. And you know, those kind of stories are what I've grown up with. When
Mhm.
my father could not afford, he used to only tell me one thing: money is sickness. पैसे के पीछे भागोगे बीमार पड़ोगे पैसे से कभी खुशी मिलता नहीं भैया और my father if you get to see and talk to him he is a living yogi matlab he is someone who has lived the way for me is my greatest inspiration also and I was just blessed to be in his shade maybe because of his upbringing the desire to it's always about giving back it's like you are accumulating wealth, you're just collecting sickness. That is all. So that is, I guess that is what prompted me to get back because I could never relate to what I was seeing in US. As you rightly said, I never could connect to the way the patients were being treated at that point of time. So it was more about, yeah.
Thank you. Someday we would
Uh,
like, sorry, sir, Arun sir, I just wanted to
go ahead.
say that, yeah, someday we would like senior Dr. Sahu to come and talk to us because
Yeah.
we heard so much about him from Arun sir and from Dr. Chinmay himself. So that will
Yes,
be a
sir.
nice experience.
Actually,
And
he's the
this,
Yeah,
right person to have come. I don't know why he's not
Ashutosh is in
calling me.
Switzerland.
uh,
Actually, I got connected to him before I asked Chinmay, Dr. Chinmay. So
uh,
he had fixed a time. He's in Switzerland. He'll be maybe next month. We shall have him definitely. I mean,
yeah.
I'll go to his, I'll hug his feet, and I will make him come and talk to us.
No, sir, I
No,
want
no,
to
no.
make one more comment. Please allow me to say this. Uh, we have three doctors in this forum today. And I want to say this from my heart that I feel that the doctors, the way get connected emotionally to people, uh, an average human being cannot connect. And I had, unfortunately or fortunately, for last 7 years or so, I have been very closely associated with doctors because of some situations that I have in my family. And I found all of them above average human being, irrespective of I went to five-star hospitals or or doctors who are very high-end support kind of doctors, but all of them were very good human beings. That is my general comment. So that's
Thank
all, sir. Thank you.
Uh, Sharda Babu, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Sir, namaskar.
you. Namaskar.
I have I have first a very selfish question from a small man. What are the, let us say, symptoms of somebody going to have onset of diabetic glaucoma, and
Uh-huh.
how long is the lead time? I have two more
So
questions. I will ask that later.
diabetic glaucoma is actually, let's say there are two things. One is diabetes and glaucoma are a little bit correlated. That means if you have diabetes, you have a high chance of developing glaucoma also. But there is something called as neovascular glaucoma, which is what diabetic people can develop in the last stage. So, which glaucoma are you talking about?
No, I have a situation where my eyesight is dimming. If I go to
Kind of.
doctors, doctors, they check for the cataract, and they say it is not matured. Of course, unfortunately, we got doctors. हाँ हाँ next week में surgery कर देंगे करके. Then I went another like कौन बोला है आपको? You come after 6 months. And when after 6 months I went another to a different doctor, बोले नहीं नहीं ये बहुत देर है मैच्योर करने का. Then they did some other testing. It was going on for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. But progressively, vision is getting lost, and doctors have told me instead of one bulb, use 3 bulbs in your room, 4 bulbs in your room. There is something that is falling short and short and short.
So,
And
are they saying
I
are you diagnosed
no
with glaucoma or
no they did a test, said that lots of lights and darks and dots come and I have to press something. And out of
correct?
that, they said, did you have a family history of glaucoma? I said, no, we did not have. He said, you have time. Right now, it is not. Right now, it is not. But this ability to see in the same light others are reading books is going down very significantly. Reading and this thing, that thing, everything is becoming very slow. But again, I go to a doctor, cataract. I mean, okay, it is there, but it is not matured enough to. You have to use more light. This is
So
going on.
actually, you can
And
share
right now,
your
sorry, sir. Right
you can
for
share
last
your
two
reports with
years.
me. I can help you with that if you want to know. I can share you my number. Dr. Arun sir has my number, and maybe you can share
Okay,
your
sir.
reports. And if there is anything I
What
can add to it, I will try and do that.
what sort of report, sir? Because after going through this for 2 3 cycles for over
Mhm.
5 6 years, every 6 months I go have a check and I am told the same thing.
Are you
So
going
I
to a government?
did.
Are you going to a government hospital or you go to a private doctor?
Varieties, sir. Varieties. I went to some private hospitals. I went
So
to.
all of them
I
are
mean,
saying that your cataract is not,
yeah,
significant.
yeah, 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 yeah. I went to this more or less charitable hospital, Desai. I live in Pune, Desai.
Okay,
I
okay, okay.
I went to them also. I went to Noble Hospital. I went to uh, Manipal Hospital. I
So
went
let me
to
just have a look at your report and let me see if I can
Shankar
help you with something.
Netralaya, Shankar Netralaya, Calcutta. I happen belong to Calcutta. My
Okay.
actually sister's husband is also a eye surgeon. Sir, what
Oh,
time did you do your Nayar and all? Which period of time?
I passed out I did my MS from 2004 to 2007.
Okay, they are much more senior. They're older than that.
Correct.
He had a training in something in that Hyderabad, whatever you said, that institute. He is
Okay.
now the head of the ophthalmology in National Medical Hospital, Calcutta.
Oh,
But
lovely,
I
sir.
do
Then
not.
you have a family person
No,
who
no,
is so
sir, no,
senior, so
sir.
you have to maybe.
No, sir, no, sir. I am unable to travel to Calcutta for the last 3 years. Last when I visited and told you the results, this is all 3 years. Is there nothing to do? This
Okay.
test, what he did, this bulb, this that. He said, "Abhi nahi hota hai." And he only asked me, glaucoma hai kya? Then he sent me to a student of his who is an
Mhm.
ex-Shankar Netralaya boy. He is in
Okay.
Shankar Netralaya, Calcutta.
Okay.
So I forget the name, some Bengali boy. Very recently, I went to Sawadhi Hospital here. There is again an ex-center, Shankar Netralaya fellow, young fellow
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
PGI Chandigarh. He's doing here, Mr. Agarwal, Dr. Agarwal.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
he also checked and said the same thing. I wish to go to him. He did not ask me for any more tests so far. So maybe I
Okay.
will go to him after some
Sure.
tests and all. If he suggests, I will come
Correct.
back, sir. But you will
Sure,
you
sir.
will
Sure.
you will suggest some tests, sir, particularly.
No, so you're going to competent people, let them take a call because until unless you examine
Yeah,
what further
exactly,
tests
sir.
are required,
Exactly.
it's
Then
difficult to.
I have to come to Mumbai. Okay, sir. If I have my luck, I will. Right now, it is not being physically possible.
No
Second,
problem.
second statement is that I mean, man, I am awed and floored and man, humified by what your personal, your notions, your uh, values of life and this and that, sir.
Thank you,
My
sir.
salutes to you. My salutes
Thank
to
you.
you. Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if nobody else has a question, so we can just thank you. Thank you is a very small word, but it means a lot to us, Chinmay. When we say all of
Thank you,
us,
sir.
thank you very much for your session, Chinmay.
Thank
I
you, sir. Thank
sorry,
you.
Hope
sorry, Arun Roy. I do have a question. So in terms of
Yes, ma'am.
technology, I won't take that much time. In terms of technology, uh, do you have that like a digital, what do you call, digital, can you check retina or everything and have a digital copy? You have that
Yeah.
technology.
Yes, yes.
And so let's see if someone wants to transfer the data, the digital copy of their exam.
Correct.
Do you have capability to accept that digital copy of the exam?
Yeah, yeah.
You do,
We
right?
do.
Okay, I
In
just
fact,
wanted to.
when I was in India is at the forefront of most of these things. When I was in
Hmm.
Shankar Netralaya, so they had a landmark program where they were doing, along with ISRO, they developed teleophthalmology, where through satellite images were being sent to a reading
Hmm.
center.
Okay. Hmm.
So
Okay, very
we
great.
they were covering. So we have something called as SN Dreams, Shankar Netralaya
Hmm.
Diabetic Retinopathy Epidemiology Study. Where they have done prevalence and incidence studies of retinopathy in 8 districts around the city, and it had a van which was um, having a kind of satellite. Yeah, where through satellite images were being sent to us at the reading center. So
Hmm.
from there on, there are multiple, like, we have digitally all possible ways in which we can do that.
Okay,
Now we have
perfect. Thank
non-mydriatic.
you.
Earlier, when you used to do a retina examination, we would have to dilate the pupil. Now we have
Hmm.
non-mydriatic, non-fundus cameras.
Oh,
I have
great.
two vans. Yeah, we have two vans which are doing our outreach programs, and both are equipped
Hmm.
with these fundus cameras because once you are able to
oh,
take a picture of the retina without dilating, it is easy. If you
Hmm.
tell a person that I
Yeah,
have to dilate your pupil and take a picture, they're all working and they're poor people. No one's interested.
yeah.
But the minute you take
Hmm.
it without dilatation, so we have that facility also now. So
Okay, yeah.
typically on my camps, they will take the pictures and they will transfer it through the WhatsApp. And if required, when they have a doubt, they will send it. And if we
Hmm.
say it's required, they will then send the patient to the main center.
Okay, excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in
Ashutosh,
case if we have, okay, go ahead, Arun Roy. I'm done.
you go after you, Ashutosh, we will take over and about the recording. So, ma'am, please go ahead.
No, no, I was just asking about the digital transfer, that's all. Because they do have here even the optometrist, she will do my retina scan and all that without dilating everything, and then she can send to
Correct.
someone. I thought whether this is available in
Yeah.
India or not. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
India
technology
is at the
moves very
cutting edge.
fast now. Yeah.
India is, in fact, far ahead, I would say, in most things in
Yeah.
compared to
Uh-huh.
most places. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Doc-
Because
Yeah.
uh, that's one of the things.
I
When
do
in US,
ultrasound
when
though.
they were coming to Arvind,
Do
lovely.
you know I do ultrasound of eye exam in
Wow.
ICU?
Oh,
Yeah, to
lovely.
see like a papilledema. Sorry, we are talking medical terms now. And
Yeah.
so that was very interesting. I started learning ultrasound like 2007 or something. And so it was very interesting to see all these hypertensive patients come in like a hypertensive urgency, emergency, and how you can check ultrasound. Just put the ultrasound
Great,
on
ma'am.
there. We have the tiny probes we can put on the eye. So that was
Very nice.
interesting too.
Yeah. So, Dr. Sahu, before we close, I just want you to talk about that injection. It is ILIA, I mentioned in the chat, which
Right.
our doctors.
So
And
ILIA has a patient support program. I don't know whether your patient is part of that.
yeah.
So you take one
Okay.
injection, the second is free. If you take the
Okay.
third, the fourth, fifth are free. Now the companies actually made each subsequent thing. So after every injection, 2 injections become free now. So
Okay.
it brings down the average cost to somewhere around 28,000 per injection now.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
it lasts for 2 months.
okay.
Secondly, not every patient needs it. Also, what happens in India is the problem is, I find a lot of doctors giving it. So, like in diabetic retinopathy, what happens is you have fluid collection in the retina. Now, when to give? Many a times, let me give you an example of a sponge. Like, if let's say you have a sponge and you dip it in water and you squeeze the water out, there will be air cells which will be kind of enlarged in size. So, in retina, when you have swelling, you will develop cystic spaces. What happens is a doctor will show those scans to the patient. Unfortunately, most retinologists also don't realize that, this is not active fluid secretion or fluid collection, but it is the dead space, and they land up over treating. So many a times the cost of treatment goes up because of, sometimes I would say, treatment which is not required also.
Okay. Okay. I understand. Thank you. In fact, when Dr. Sarita was talking about the digital scan reports and all, I thought of sharing my screen and showing one of those reports which I have on my laptop. But anyway, that will be some
Okay.
other time. That will be
Sure.
some other time because we have all these facilities in India now. And as you rightly said, these are all available. So thank you so much, sir. Sir, Arun, sir, you want me to stop recording now?
Yes, yes. We stop recording. I have nothing more to add.
Okay. Okay.
I have to say something. It may not go on record because this is I may
I,
be treated as a
I,
black
I'll,
sheep of the fraternity.
I'll stop the recording, sir. Just give me a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. It need not be a part of our recording today.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Stopped it, sir. Stopped it.